Since the Oblivion Remastered shadow drops out of nowhere on April 22nd, that can only mean that the next game Bethesda is remaking or remastering will be Fallout 3, based on this supposed leak. Since Oblivion turned out to be true, then it is only a matter of time before we get to wander around a remastered Capital Wasteland. Fallout 3 is one of my favourite games of all time and one of my favourite comfy blanket games. I know that New Vegas is considered the best amongst post-apocalyptica fans, and while I do enjoy New Vegas, it doesn't have a special place in my heart like Bethesda's first foray into the Fallout universe. So, like many of the games I've played, I have put hundreds of hours into Fallout 3 and consider myself something of an expert, and I thought I would put some of that knowledge to use, starting with tips for newcomers. Like my Skyrim tips, I have also split this into two videos so I don't make one overly long video, so keep an eye out for part 2. I should also say that for those newcomers, if you are interested in playing this game and you want to know the best quests, I have two videos covering those exact topics, links in the description below. So welcome to the first in what I hope should be a long list of tips to help the aspiring lone wanderer in the Capital Wasteland. I should also say I'm basing these tips solely on the original Fallout 3 and the Oblivion Remaster, which didn't change much in ways of the overall gameplay. With all that being said, I'm Craig, this is Amalgamingle, and here are my top 5 tips for Fallout 3 Part 1.
I almost wish there was another nuke we could detonate. You don't see that very often.
I'm glad you're pleased.
Starting off our list is quite literally the first significant thing you do, besides learning to walk at the tender age of 1. Well done you. And that's picking out your attributes through the Your Special book that you can interact with once your dad does his disappearing act. For those of you who have played Fallout 4 but not the earlier Fallout games, it plays out the same way, except instead of talking to the Vault-Tec guy, you're reading this toddler's book. When you open the book, you'll see that each attribute, and that's strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck, have all been given a default number of 5, but if you go right to the back of the book, you can actually deselect all of these, leaving you 40 points to allocate however you see fit. Now, pay attention here because, unlike Fallout 4, there is a level cap in Fallout 3, and it's either level 20 in the base game, or if you have the Broken Steel DLC, it's raised to 30. Now that might seem small compared to the way Bethesda games let you level indefinitely nowadays, but there's still a lot you can do with your character to make a warrior of the wastes. What this means is you have to think carefully about how you want to play the game. Each attribute has their uses, so I'm going to break each of them down. Pretty straightforward this one, but strength governs your carrying capacity first and foremost, allowing you to carry an extra 10 points on top of your base stat with a possible increase of 100, taking your total number up to 250. Another feature that strength grants is a slight increase to damage with melee weapons and can also provide a melee damage bonus, yet strength strangely does not affect unarmed damage, which is a skill in this game. We'll get to that in a short while. In dialogue options, a high strength can be used to intimidate others. Next up, we have perception. At its core level, perception shows things on your compass in game that may be further away than you can see. This can include both map markers, NPCs, and enemies. But perception also modifies the explosives, lockpicking, and energy weapon skills. For stealth players who want to sneak around and are always wary of traps, a high perception is a must-have. Third one along, and we have endurance. This one determines how much damage the player's hit points can take before they whittle down to 0 and your Deathclaw food. But endurance also has other useful features. Endurance also grants you poison and radiation resistance, allowing you to move through dangerous hazards for longer periods of time, which can be boosted with certain health items. But strangely, this does not cover damage resistance. You'll need certain perks and armor for that. Endurance also boosts the big guns and unarmed skills, which make a fair amount of sense to me, but I still find it weird that unarmed isn't also governed by strength. And lastly, endurance also determines the speed in which the character's oxygen level is depleted when moving underwater. You rarely ever need to go underwater when you're playing Fallout 3, but it's worth considering on the off chance you end up deep sea diving.
Hey, I hear you're that stray from the vault. I haven't seen one.
Fourth one now, and we come to charisma. This one is probably self-explanatory, but I'm still going to explain it since I love the sound of my own voice. Charisma doesn't affect anything during combat or anything like that, but what it does do is affect the barter and speech skill trees, as well as giving every non-combative NPC a disposition level with you. Disposition can be a make or break depending on which way you plan on finishing a quest. A lot of quests in Fallout 3 have multiple outcomes, and charisma can play a lot into that. Of course, it isn't the only way. For instance, most NPCs prefer good karma characters. Don't worry, we'll get to karma too somewhere down the line. Next up we have intelligence, one of the attributes I consider to be a must-have. Intelligence governs the medicine, repair and science skills, but it also does more than that. It also governs how many skill points you get every time you level up. The base rate of skill points per level is 10. The higher your intelligence level, the more is added on top of the base 10. This can be a real deal breaker in some situations, especially if you're in a tough spot and need to repair your pistol, baseball bat or armor, but found out that you were previously lacking in that last fight. As you can probably guess, I always make sure my character has a high intelligence level before I venture forth into the Capital Wasteland. Our penultimate attribute is agility, and depending on your combat playstyle, this might either be one you want to invest in or one you want to ignore. Agility governs 3 major things: the small guns skill tree, the sneak skill tree, and how many action points you have in VATS. So if you think you're going to be using VATS a lot, especially combined with either small guns, sneak, or even both, then you will want to put at least a few points into agility. This also depends on how you find the combat in Fallout 3. As much as I love this game, the combat is definitely somewhat lacking and is definitely an area that Fallout 4 shines. I personally rarely ever use VATS, if only because I prefer the challenge, and when you pull off that perfect shot and blow off a raider's head, the satisfaction that you did it and not some cutscene you watch play out is fantastic. And finally we come to the final on the special tree, and that's luck. This one is somewhat vague, as is luck itself really, since it can be good or bad. But in Fallout 3 it does have some impact on your gameplay, however only minor in my opinion. The first one is that it can increase critical chance hits against enemies, meaning you have a higher chance of dealing more damage the higher your luck is. The other thing it does is also modifies all skills. Yes, that's all skills, but not in the way you think. Basically, for every 2 points you have in luck, the game adds 1 point to all skills, meaning if you were to max out the luck skill, all skills in the game would have an extra 5 starting points. Sounds good, but I find this to be a waste of points. To give you an idea of what I mean, just think of this phrase: a jack of all trades is a master of none. And that's the special tree neatly covered. The best thing about this setup is that, just like Oblivion when you get to the exit of the Imperial sewers, before you leave Vault 101, the game will prompt you, asking if you're happy with the character setup you have and if you want to make any changes. So make a separate save before you exit the vault for good if you find that the skills and stat you've picked aren't for you. So let's move on to our next entry. Number 2 on our list is a direct fallout from the previous entry, and that's skills of course. There are 13 in the game, and I'll throw them on screen now. These all cover a wide range of abilities you can use in the game, both combat and passive, and a few of them work in tandem. For instance, barter and speech. Barter covers how much merchants will buy and sell from you, and speech also helps when you're dealing with NPCs about any number of things. As I mentioned in my previous entry, the attributes you put the most points into also affect many of these skills, though that isn't always a make or break situation. To give you an example, I am primarily a small guns player. I like to use things like the combat shotgun, the Chinese assault rifle and the Lincoln repeating rifle, and I just don't like being bogged down with a big set of powder armor and a minigun, even if it does look fucking cool. So I'll quickly summarize the important ones for you. Big guns covers all the big two-handed guns in the game: miniguns, plasma throwers, missile launchers, and of course the now iconic Fat Man. Energy weapons covers all plasma and laser based weaponry, including the Gauss rifle from Operation Anchorage and the Alien Blaster and weapons from the Mothership Zeta DLC, 2 of the most overpowered guns in the entire game, as well as the laser pistols, rifles, plasma pistols and rifles, and a tri-laser that was also added with the Broken Steel DLC. Explosives covers the use of all variants of explosives such as mines and grenades, as well as how easily you can disarm traps. Melee weapons covers all those handheld weapons without a trigger you might want to swing at a raider or a super mutant, such as axes, baseball bats, police batons, combat knives, and so on. Small guns covers all one-handed guns and the smaller two-handed guns such as pistols, shotguns, rifles, assault rifles, and the sniper rifles. Sneak speaks for itself and covers your ability to remain undetected when you crouch. This mechanic works the same way as most Bethesda games, so should be fairly easy to get to grips with if you want to play a stealth character. And finally, the last one I will touch upon is unarmed. As you can imagine from the name, this governs the amount of damage your fists will do. From being a limp-wristed vault dweller to a Mike Tyson-esque post-apocalyptic prize fighter. But you can boost your unarmed skill by using such things as brass knuckles, spiked knuckles, or even the power fist. That is just an overview of some of the more prominent skills in the game. My personal preference is that I tend to overlook big guns, energy weapons, explosives, melee weapons, sneak, and unarmed. I always play with a certain mindset and it served me well for the better part of 17 years. The grey hairs are fast approaching. There are plenty of items in the game that can help boost these skills if need be, but I'll go into that another time. Moving on to number 3. Tip number 3 covers 4 skills I think should get their own entry because I wanted to break them down a little bit better, and that's the lockpicking, medicine, repair, and science skills. Lockpicking is pretty much the same as in all Fallout games after Fallout 3 and is also similar to Starfield's in one particular way. You need to have the right amount of points put into that skill before you can even attempt to pick through any locked doors and safes, and the tree works like this. Next up is medicine. Self-explanatory, but this covers the use of any and all medical items from Stimpaks, Radaways, Radex, Medex, and the alien biogels from the Mothership Zeta DLC. Medicine doesn't govern any of the consumables that you can be addicted to, like alcohol, jet, buff out, and other such paraphernalia. The higher your skill in medicine, the more hit points are recovered from Stimpaks, and the more rads are removed from Radaways, as well as the longevity of Radex. Next up is repair. And I would argue that this is the single best skill to max out as fast as you can, because it's all in the name. It will repair your weapons, armor, and even your clothes. And this is a big deal because every equipable item in the game has a condition bar and you can see it on the bottom right of your HUD. And if you or a merchant can't repair an item in time, or its condition drops to 0, it literally breaks and your character will stop using said item. This can be a major pain if you are in the middle of a battle and you have nowhere to hide or escape to. Of course, going to a merchant isn't always the solution since they charge you to repair items and you can choose to pick individual items or bulk repair if you need more than one item repairing, and it isn't always cheap. And note that most merchants cannot repair past 49%, meaning that it is a much better investment for you to put points into your own repair skill. But there is a bit of a twist here when it comes to repairing. Unlike Oblivion, where you could use repair hammers, here you cannot just repair an item if you only have one of it in your inventory. Let me give you an example. Say you have a 10mm pistol in your inventory from when you were escaping Vault 101. Its condition is showing pretty low and your character keeps doing that double reload feature that can be annoying, but also the game's way of telling you that it needs repairing. So you want to repair it, right? Well, unless you have another 10mm pistol in your inventory, I'm afraid you can't. Items in the game can only be repaired by having a similar item in your inventory to repair it with. And another neat little bonus that repair can give you is that if you repair certain armors that you don't want to keep but want to sell, such as say Raider armor, you can then sell them for a much higher cap rate than normal. I hope that makes sense. Moving on to science. So yes, science. This one may not be as important as the other 3, but I always like to have it maxed out. This skill allows you to hack terminals much in the same way lockpicking does for locks. This might not be that important to some of you, but a few places are locked behind terminals that can only be hacked, allowing you to unlock the door. And if you love to explore, this is a must. I know this isn't as in-depth as the others in this entry, but I just thought it might be worth sharing for all you intrepid explorers out there. Before we move on, I must stress that I think every single person should max out repair regardless of how you play the game. Not only will it make things easier for you, but it will also mean any weapons, armor or clothing you repair to max that you don't want to keep will also give you a tiny little profit when it comes to selling at merchant stalls. Our penultimate entry is going to be brief because if I don't, then this will become very confusing very fast. And that's leveling up and perks. For those of you that have only played Fallout 4 and not this and New Vegas, the leveling system is pretty much the same except for a few minor differences. As I have already said, when you level up in Fallout 3, you'll be granted a minimum of 10 points to put in whatever skills you want. But once you've done that, you can also pick a perk from the next page, provided you have the necessary points already put into the attribute and skill that governs it. What do I mean by all that word salad? We'll take the Daddy's Boy / Daddy's Girl perk as an example, and yes, for those of you that don't know, some of these perks change depending on your gender, which is pretty neat, I think. Anyway, this perk grants you an additional 5 points in both medicine and science, and to even be able to unlock this perk you need to have a minimum of 4 points in intelligence from the special tree at the beginning of the game. Or to follow on, the robotics expert needs a minimum of 50 points in the science skill before you can unlock that. And what this perk does is grant you an additional 25% damage against all robot enemies in the game, and if you sneak up behind a robot enemy, you can permanently deactivate them. And the best thing about some of these perks is that they stack. Going back to Daddy's Boy, this can be ranked up 3 times, meaning that you can level up medicine and science 15 points each on top of the skills available when you level up. There are a lot of perks in Fallout 3, some of which only become available after you've completed certain quests or even after you've made certain choices at the end of quests. I should also say that this is based entirely on the original Fallout 3, which had a level cap of 20 originally but was boosted to level 30 with the Broken Steel DLC. If a remaster comes with all the DLCs and doesn't change the overall leveling system, in a similar vein to the Oblivion Remaster, then the same should apply here. There's so many perks that I plan to make a video that goes into more details on what I feel are the best overall perks, so stay tuned for that. And now we come to our final entry in the video, and that's weapons and armor. This isn't really a complete deep dive into the mechanics of said weapons and armor, more an overview on what might be the best for each playstyle and the corresponding skills that you should put points into. So, do you like the idea of being Iron Man on the battlefield, wielding guns that will make a Terminator blush? If you said yes, then you want to put points into big guns. Annoyingly, power armor isn't something you can just equip if you come across it like in Fallout 4. There are 3 ways to get it, but the most direct way is as follows. During the main quest mission, Picking Up the Trail, speak to Elder Lines about power armor training and he will direct you to Paladin Gunny, who is in the courtyard of the Citadel. Once you speak to him, a mini little cutscene plays out and then you can equip power armor, and that means the power armor of the Brotherhood of Steel, the Enclave, or even some of the more secret ones you can find in the game. Anyway, to other playstyles. Do you like moving with a nice set of armor and a big but not too big gun in your hands? If you said yes to this, then you'll want to put points into small guns, and then I recommend combat armor on one of the many smaller big guns such as the combat shotgun, Chinese assault rifle, hunting rifle, or the Lincoln repeating rifle. One way to always keep your combat armor tip-top shape is by fighting Talon Company mercenaries who always wear armor that can be paired with combat armor, and these always have really good weapons too. Or are you the type to get up close? Do you want to see the whites of your enemy's eyes as you snuff them out? Well, good for you, psycho, because I recommend putting points into melee weapons in either raider armor or leather armor and a really good melee weapon, something that swings fast and does a lot of damage. Raiders are probably the most common type of enemy in Fallout 3, so you'll never run out of armor and weapons to repair your gear with to keep you in tip-top stabbing shape. Or are you the sneaky sort? Do you like hiding from your enemies, hitting them from either up close or out of range? Then you'll want to put points into sneak and small guns and use either the silenced 10mm pistol or an infiltrator rifle that was added with the Pit DLC. And for all you martial arts wannabes, it's entirely up to you which armor or clothing you want to wear when getting up close and personal with your victims. But take note, you can find a handy tool called a Power Fist that will boost your unarmed damage. And for any of you that want to use energy weapons, they will easily fit into any one of these types of character builds. And as I have already said more than once, max out your repair skill. Thank me later. And there we are, my top 5 tips for Fallout 3 Part 1. Let me know if any of these helped you, and any veterans, feel free to add your own in the comments below. And be sure to stay tuned for more Fallout 3 content coming soon, including a part 2 to this tip video. I've been Craig, this is Amalgamingle, and thank you very much for watching.